What happens when an ordinary woman dares to do the unthinkable at a glittering gala and bites a billionaire in front of everyone? This is the story of Hazel, a woman from a simple life, and Harper, a powerful man no one ever dared to cross. That one shocking moment changed both their lives forever. Stay with me as we dive into a tale full of suspense, heart-melting romance, and a powerful lesson for our society. Because sometimes, love begins in the most unexpected way. The ballroom shimmered like a dream painted in gold. Chandeliers hung above like frozen fireworks, scattering diamonds of light across polished marble floors. The air was thick with perfume, laughter, and the clinking of crystal glasses filled with champagne that sparkled as if it held liquid stars. Men in tuxedos stood tall, their polished shoes reflecting the glow. Women in shimmering gowns floated past, their jewels glittering brighter than the chandeliers themselves. The orchestra in the corner played violins that wept and laughed, filling the room with a melody that made every heart beat to its rhythm. But not Hazel's. Hazel stood at the edge of the grand hall, her simple black dress making her feel invisible among gowns worth fortunes. The dress clung neatly to her frame, but compared to the glittering silks and satin around her, it felt like nothing. In her hands, she held a tray of drinks that trembled faintly with her nervousness. She wasn't meant to be here. She didn't belong here. Her best friend, a caterer, had begged her at the last minute. "Please, Hazel, just for tonight. I'll lose my job if I don't have extra help." Hazel couldn't say no. And so, here she was, serving champagne to people who looked at her as if she were furniture, not a person. She kept her head down, her eyes fixed on the tray, her heart racing whenever someone brushed too close. The laughter, the gossip, the perfume, it was suffocating. Every step she took felt heavier, as though the floor itself wanted her gone. Then it happened. The room seemed to shift, the crowd parting as though a king had entered. Hazel dared to look up, and her breath caught. Harper Sterling, the billionaire. The man people whispered about, but never approached without trembling. At 38, he carried himself with a presence that silenced rooms. His suit, a tailored midnight blue, looked like it had been stitched from shadows themselves. His shoulders were broad, his jaw strong, his gray-blue eyes sharp enough to cut through lies and pride alike. People bowed their heads slightly as he walked by, pretending it was casual. But Hazel noticed it. How every step he took demanded respect without a word. He was power in human form. And then, impossibly, he was standing right in front of her. Hazel's chest tightened. She lowered her eyes quickly, pretending to rearrange the glasses on her tray. She prayed he wouldn't notice her shaking hands. But fate had other plans. As Harper reached for a glass, his hand brushed the edge of her tray. It tipped. Champagne slipped, liquid gold spilling onto the marble floor. Hazel gasped, jerking the tray upward, but in his quick attempt to steady it, Harper's hand closed around her wrist. The contact was electric, unexpected, burning, terrifying. Hazel's breath hitched, and before she could think, instinct roared louder than reason. Her pulse raced, her chest tightened, and in a moment of blind panic, she bit him. Her teeth barely grazed his skin, but the act was undeniable. The tray tilted, a glass shattered. The violin music broke off mid-note. The laughter stopped. The crowd gasped, their voices rising like a wave. Heads turned, eyes widened. Hazel froze. Her heart pounded in her ears so loudly she thought the entire ballroom could hear. She felt the warmth of his skin still on her lips, the weight of her mistake pressing against her chest. She had just bitten Harper Sterling, the billionaire, the untouchable man who ruled rooms with silence. And now the room was silent because of her. Hazel's breath came shallow, her throat dry. Her knees trembled as though they might give way. She wanted to disappear, to vanish into the marble floor, to be swallowed whole by the chandelier's golden light. For a heartbeat that felt like forever, no one moved. Every eye was on Harper. Would he rage? Would he call security? Would he ruin her life with a single command? Hazel's lips trembled. Tears burned the back of her eyes. Her heart whispered one desperate thought. This is the end. My life is over. But Harper didn't move. He simply looked at her, his eyes unreadable, his lips parting as though the entire ballroom had vanished and only she existed. And that silence was louder than thunder. The silence in the ballroom grew heavier with every heartbeat. It was the kind of silence that crushed lungs, that made people lean forward, desperate for the explosion they thought would come. Guests clutched their glasses tighter, some already whispering predictions. "He'll have her dragged out," one woman hissed under her breath. "She's finished," another man muttered, his lips curling in cruel amusement. Hazel's chest heaved. Her fingers clutched the tray so hard her knuckles turned white. Shame washed over her like a storm, pounding against her skin. She could already see the headlines in her imagination, the gossip tomorrow, the way people would sneer at her. Her lips trembled. Her eyes darted toward the door. She wanted to run, but her feet were frozen in place. And then a sound broke the silence. It wasn't anger. It wasn't fury. It wasn't the roar of a billionaire destroying someone's life. It was laughter, a deep, rich laugh that rolled through the golden room like warm thunder. It startled the guests so much that some nearly spilled their drinks. It cut through the tension, cracked the silence wide open, and left everyone blinking in disbelief. Hazel's head snapped up. Her wide eyes found Harper. He was laughing. His lips curved into something that wasn't cruel, but almost amused. His gray-blue eyes softened, though something sharp still flickered beneath them, something Hazel couldn't name. "You've got fire," Harper murmured, his voice low, velvet smooth, meant only for her ears. His words brushed against her skin like a secret, like a forbidden touch. "No one's ever had the courage to touch me like that." Hazel's breath caught in her throat. Her heart leapt into a frenzy. She couldn't believe what she was hearing. This man, the man who could ruin her with a glance, wasn't angry. He was intrigued. I didn't mean," Hazel stammered, her voice breaking, her eyes pleading for understanding. But Harper tilted his head slightly, studying her with an intensity that made her knees weak. His lips curved, not in mockery, but in something dangerously close to admiration. The crowd, still holding their breath, watched every flicker of his expression. When Harper finally turned, his voice carried authority once again, though it was calm. "Excuse us." It wasn't a request, it was a command. Without waiting for permission, Harper gently touched Hazel's elbow and guided her toward the grand glass doors leading to the balcony. The orchestra hesitated, then resumed playing, but the whispers never stopped. Hazel's heart hammered in her chest. She shook her head faintly, panic rushing through her veins. "No, I shouldn't." Harper leaned closer, his voice low, coaxing, yet steady enough to quiet her racing fear. "Trust me, I won't hurt you." Those words, so simple, so unexpected, settled inside her like an anchor. His tone wasn't the cold steel of command she'd heard before. It was something warmer, gentler, a promise hidden in the storm of his presence. Her lips parted. She wanted to refuse. She wanted to protect herself. But her body betrayed her. Her feet moved. Step by step, she followed him. The golden lights of the ballroom dimmed behind them as they pushed through the glass doors. The night air swept over her skin, cool and calming, carrying the scent of roses from the garden below. Hazel's chest rose and fell rapidly. She clutched the edge of her tray, though her hands trembled so much she thought she'd drop it. Harper stopped, releasing her arm slowly, as though afraid she might break. He turned to her, the moonlight brushing his features in silver, softening the sharpness of his jaw, the intensity of his gaze. Hazel's heart tripped over itself. She had bitten a billionaire, and instead of punishment, she was standing alone with him on a balcony, the night whispering around them, his eyes fixed only on her. She didn't know whether to run or to fall. The balcony opened up like another world, far away from the glittering chaos of the ballroom. The cool night air wrapped around Hazel like a gentle embrace, sweeping away the suffocating perfume and whispers from inside. The hum of violins faded into a faint echo behind the glass doors, replaced by the quiet song of crickets and the rustle of leaves in the gardens below. Harper leaned against the railing with effortless grace, as though the moon itself bowed to him. The silver light spilled across his tailored midnight blue suit, making him look untouchable, like a figure carved from stone and shadow. Yet his eyes were softer now, gray-blue pools reflecting not arrogance but curiosity. He broke the silence first, his voice low, almost amused. "Do you know what most people do when they stand in front of me?" Hazel's hands gripped the tray she still held, her knuckles pale. She dared to glance at him just for a second, then quickly looked away. I don't know." "They bow," Harper said, his gaze steady on her. "They flatter, or they fear me. Every word, every smile is rehearsed. Every gesture is meant to impress." He paused, letting his words linger in the air between them. Then his lips curved slightly, a smirk that wasn't cruel, but strangely warm. "But you—" His eyes flickered to her wrist, to the memory of what had happened. "You bit me." Hazel's cheeks burned. Her heart stumbled in her chest. She opened her mouth, fumbling for words. "I didn't mean—" "I know," Harper interrupted gently, his tone softer than she ever thought he was capable of. "But it was real. It wasn't planned. It wasn't fake. And His voice dropped to almost a whisper. "I can't remember the last time someone was real with me." Hazel froze, her breath caught in her throat. She had expected anger, mockery, even dismissal, but his confession felt heavier than the chandelier lights she had fled from. It wasn't about a bite. It was about something deeper, something she couldn't yet understand. "What's your name?" Harper asked suddenly. Her voice shook when she answered, almost too quiet for the night to carry. "Hazel." The sound of her own name felt strange in the air, small compared to his presence. But when Harper repeated it softly under his breath, his lips curled as if the name itself was rare, precious. "Hazel," he said again, slower this time, as though he wanted to memorize it. Her chest tightened, heat rising up her neck. For the first time all night, Hazel's fear loosened its grip. The tray in her hand no longer felt like a shield. Slowly, as if the balcony itself demanded truth, she began to speak. She told him how she wasn't part of this world, how she didn't belong in gowns and chandeliers. She confessed she was only there because her friend needed her, her best friend, a caterer who lived paycheck to paycheck, just like her. She spoke of scraping rent money, of feeling invisible when walking past stores she could never afford, of being seen only when people wanted something from her. Her voice trembled, but she kept going because something in Harper's eyes told her he was listening, not politely, not out of duty, but truly listening. And he did. Harper leaned slightly forward, every muscle in his body focused on her words. No one had spoken to him like this in years. No rehearsed compliments, no delicate lies, just raw, unpolished truth. It pulled at something inside him, something he thought he had buried long ago. When her voice finally faltered, when she hesitated and dropped her gaze to the marble floor, Harper spoke. His tone was softer than velvet, yet laced with weight. "Do you know how rare it is to hear words like yours? Everyone wants to shine in my world. But you've shown me the shadows." Hazel's eyes lifted. For the first time, she truly looked at him. Not at the billionaire, not at the suit, not at the untouchable man people whispered about. She saw the faint lines near his eyes, the heaviness in his gaze, the loneliness tucked carefully behind his strength. It hit her like a breath of cold air. Harper Sterling, the billionaire, wasn't untouchable. He was human. And in that moment, their worlds, the glittering ballroom and the simple black dress, the billionaire and the invisible girl, felt like they had collided on this balcony under the same moonlight. For a fleeting moment on the balcony, Hazel thought the night had shifted into calm. The air was cool. Harper's voice still lingered in her chest, and the weight of the ballroom no longer pressed so heavily on her shoulders. Maybe, just maybe, the chaos of the evening was over, but fate wasn't finished with her. A sudden crack of harsh voices sliced through the night, muffled but sharp through the glass doors. Hazel's head whipped toward the ballroom, her heart tightening instantly. Harper's gaze followed hers, his eyes narrowing. Through the shimmering glass, Hazel spotted the scene unraveling. Her friend, the one who had begged her to help tonight, was trembling beside a tray that lay tipped on the floor. Red wine bled across the marble like spilled blood. A wealthy guest, face flushed with anger and entitlement, loomed over her. His voice, even muffled, dripped venom. "You useless girl! Do you know what that wine costs? People like you don't belong in places like this!" Hazel's chest constricted. Her pulse raced. That wasn't just wine. That was her friend's dignity, her only chance to hold on to her job, her only way to pay her bills, to survive. Hazel gasped, her tray clattering slightly in her own hands. "No," she whispered. Without thinking, her feet carried her forward, the glass doors trembling as she shoved them open. The music faltered once again. Heads turned. All eyes snapped toward the commotion. Hazel's heart thundered as she rushed inside, ready to stand between her friend and the venomous cruelty. She didn't care that she was just another worker, invisible to these people. She didn't care if it cost her a night's pay or even humiliation. Her friend mattered more than pride. But before Hazel could open her mouth, a shadow moved beside her. Harper. He stepped into the center of the storm, tall and commanding, his presence alone freezing the cruel guest mid-shout. His hand came to Hazel's back, steady, firm, protective. The warmth of his touch sent a strange calm through her panicked veins. When Harper spoke, his voice wasn't loud, but it carried like thunder through the golden hall. Calm, cold, and powerful. "Enough!" The single word cracked across the ballroom, silencing every whisper, every clink of glass, every heartbeat. The cruel guest blinked, his face draining of color as Harper's gray-blue eyes locked onto him with icy precision. "If you cannot respect the people who work to serve us," Harper continued, his tone sharper than glass, "then you don't deserve to be here." The air in the ballroom changed instantly. What had been sneers and whispers turned to stunned silence. The crowd held their breath, some glancing nervously at one another as if daring not to agree would put them in danger. Hazel stood frozen at Harper's side, her friend trembling behind her. Her own heart pounded not from fear now, but from something entirely different, admiration, fierce and consuming. This man, this billionaire who could have destroyed her earlier tonight, was standing with her now. Not above her, not as a master silencing a servant, but beside her. The cruel man, red-faced and shrinking, mumbled something unintelligible before backing away into the crowd. He didn't dare argue. Harper's presence was too heavy, his words too sharp. The tension broke like glass. Harper straightened, his hand still steady at Hazel's back. His voice shifted softer now, but carrying the same weight. "From this moment forward," he commanded the staff and guests alike, "every worker here will be treated with respect. They are not invisible. They are not beneath anyone." The orchestra hesitated, then picked up again, though softer this time, as if even the music had learned respect. Conversations restarted in whispers, but no one dared challenge what had just been said. Hazel's eyes burned with tears she fought to keep back. Her heart raced in her chest, not because she was afraid, but because something inside her shifted forever. The billionaire who could have crushed her had instead lifted her up. Her gaze flicked to Harper, his jaw strong, his shoulders set, but his eyes, those stormy gray-blue eyes, softened when they met hers. For just a heartbeat, the ballroom disappeared again. There was only Hazel and Harper, standing side by side in a moment that changed everything. And Hazel realized with a trembling breath, this man wasn't just power. He was protector, and that was far more dangerous to her heart than any anger he could have shown. The grand hall was nearly empty now, the chandeliers still glowing but without the laughter and chatter of the wealthy guests. Hazel gathered her small bag, her heart pounding with relief that the night was finally over. She had survived a world she never belonged to. But as she turned toward the quiet marble entrance, she heard footsteps, firm, steady, deliberate. She froze. Harper, the billionaire who could have had her thrown out hours ago, was now following her. Hazel's breath caught in her chest. Why? What could he possibly want with someone like her? She turned slowly, her eyes meeting his. His face was different now, softer, calmer, stripped of the cold mask he had worn all night. There was a warmth in his gaze that made her knees weak. "You bit me once tonight," Harper said with a low, teasing smile. His voice rolled like velvet, both playful and tender. Hazel's cheeks flushed crimson. I didn't mean to. It was just—" "Real," he finished for her, stepping closer. "Everything you've done tonight has been real, and you have no idea how rare that is in my world." Hazel hugged her bag against her chest, as if it could shield her from the storm of emotions he stirred inside her. "Harper, I don't belong here. You're a billionaire. I'm ordinary. People would laugh. They'd tear me apart." "Let them laugh," Harper whispered, his voice trembling with conviction. "For years I've been surrounded by people who bow, flatter, and pretend. But when you walked into my world, you didn't worship me. You challenged me. You made me feel alive." Her heart raced wildly. She wanted to believe him, but doubt clawed at her. Could someone like Harper truly see her as more than a fleeting moment? "You don't understand," Hazel murmured, fighting the tears that threatened her eyes. "I live paycheck to paycheck. I fix broken shoes. I eat canned soup. You make me forget all of that," Harper interrupted, his voice breaking into something raw, almost desperate. "Hazel, when I'm with you, the gold, the power, the endless empty nights, none of it matters. You matter." Her breath hitched. She had never seen a man with everything look so vulnerable, so utterly human. Harper took one more step, close enough that she could feel the warmth of him radiating through the cold air of the marble entrance. "For the first time in years," he whispered, "I don't feel alone. And that's worth more than anything in this room." Hazel's defenses crumbled like fragile glass. Her lips parted, words failing her. Her body trembled, not from fear, but from the intensity of being truly seen. When Harper leaned down, there was no arrogance in his movement, no demand, no pressure, only sincerity. He kissed her with the gentleness of a man who had been starving for something real his entire life. Hazel closed her eyes and surrendered. She kissed him back, pouring all her confusion, fear, and longing into that single breath-stealing moment. For a girl who had always been invisible, this kiss was a spark of something unthinkable. And for a billionaire who had everything, this kiss was the first taste of something priceless. Neither of them wanted it to end. Weeks later, the gala was just a memory, but Hazel's life had transformed. Harper didn't sweep her into his world as a trophy. He walked into hers. He visited small cafes, learned about real struggles, even funded projects to help workers like Hazel's friend. Hazel, once invisible, was now seen, not just by Harper, but by others who realized money didn't define worth. At a quiet dinner one evening, Harper held her hand. "You changed me, Hazel. You showed me respect and love aren't bought, they're earned. And I'll spend my life earning yours." Her eyes filled with tears as she whispered, "You already have." They weren't billionaire and caterer anymore. They were Harper and Hazel, two hearts that collided in the strangest way, but taught everyone watching that love and respect mattered more than wealth or status. And so, what began with a bite ended with a bond unbreakable. Heartwarming lesson. Love and respect are stronger than money or social class. True worth is not found in wealth, but in kindness, equality, and courage to see people for who they really are.